or good afternoon, or maybe good evening from wherever you may be coming from.
You don't know when it comes to podcasts.
No, you don't. You never know. You never know, because somebody could be listening it on their way home.
That's right.
Or somebody could be listening to it on their way to work.
Right.
Or somebody could be listening to it while they're playing hooky.
From work.
I'm Dave Wescott, CEO of Evergreen Brands, TransBlue, Condo Shield, Snow Bros. This is Dave Vetter, Vice President of Operations.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're talking about $1 million business ideas. And today we wanted to just take a step back and talk about the things that you should be prepared for. We're going to talk about failure.
Ooh, failure. It's a good life lesson. Lots of good life lessons.
Lots of good life lessons.
Lots of good life lessons.
Over and over again. You know what? Interestingly enough, when I was at the Harvard Business School, I had this idea that, if you had been in business once and then you had failed, that your second go about it would make you better.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, because I thought, you'd learn some lessons and you'd do things different and you'd be so much smarter. It's like going back to high school. I mean, I loved high school, but if I could go back to high school with what I learned after high school, dude, I would crush it even harder.
That would be a nice way to go through high school. Yeah.
Right?
It was all life lessons in high school.
All life lessons in high school.
Every day seemed like there was a failure in it for sure.
A failure and a success,
and
right?
And a success.
And a
right.
success.
Yeah. I remember telling my parents, I think many times, how I knew everything after every single day and then failed.
Yeah. I remember knowing everything, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sneaking back into the house and I hear, David, and my dad's on the outside porch. I'm like, oh no, it's all over from here. But just interestingly enough that, I really had this idea that as you went through business and you had experienced failures, that you would be successful. And, they produced some numbers with some surveys, and actually what they found was that people who failed actually failed again.
Oh.
That they weren't actually successful the second time around.
Yeah.
And so, that's a different mentality, And, they refer to, the business owner as the jockey and the business as the horse.
Right.
Right. And so how are those two, things working? And I think failure is really important. And one of the things that really came out of it was that people who failed just kind of always fail.
Interesting.
And people who are successful are just kind of always successful. So you got to, if you're going to tie your rope to somebody or you're going to hook up with somebody, you kind of want to do it with the people who are successful, because what they found was that people who are successful, more successful people gravitated towards them. And the more successful people gravitated towards successful people, the more other people became successful, and the more successful that person became.
Yeah. If you're going to tie your wagon to the horse, you definitely want to get the one that's winning. Yeah, I can see that for sure, because if you think about it, there's lots of levels of success.
That's right.
So, what's successful to one person, and what's a higher level of success and higher level of success, and there's lots and thousands and millions of successful businesses across the globe.
Have you seen? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so I was just thinking, that those that fail, I've seen lots of businesses that have struggled.
Yep.
But still succeed.
Yep.
So I think there's a difference there. You're right.
There is a huge difference.
From struggling is one thing. Failure is another thing.
Have you seen that show, The Last Dance, with Michael Jordan?
Not yet.
Man, that is such a good show. And in this one part in episode number 4, or maybe 5, Michael Jordan, they're showing the face-off between, Michael Jordan and the Portland Trailblazers and Clyde Drexler.
Okay.
You remember that?
I do remember that.
And they were comparing Michael Jordan to Clyde Drexler.
Okay.
And this totally ticked Michael Jordan off. He's like, dude, this guy is not even in the same league as me.
Right.
But they were comparing him, and so Michael had this mission to just obliterate
Oh, jeez.
Clyde Drexler and the Portland Trailblazers. And then it goes on to show the interview with, Michael, and they couldn't get Clyde on there, I don't think. He's probably pretty disappointed.
Right.
But I don't think Clyde Drexler ever won an NBA championship that I can remember. I mean, we could Google it and probably get the answer.
Yeah, I know. See, and this is going to really upset some. I've got a little bit of family in Oregon and a few friends in Oregon, so I hope it doesn't upset them that I don't know this answer. But I know that they were real close. I know that down in Rose City, they were really close.
Real close. I mean, the Sonics were close too, right?
Sonics. I was at that game when I was at those games when they lost to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that was tough. I remember watching those games. I mean, I remember all those games specifically, but so I think it's interesting, and I love sports. And you think about great quarterback, Dan Marino. You're familiar with Dan Marino?
Oh, very familiar with him.
One of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yes, and he did not win a Super Bowl.
Never won a championship, right?
No.
And even if Clyde did, it was so unmemorable that I can't even remember it. And I don't think so, because the Bulls kind of owned the 90s.
Yeah, they did.
And but regardless of that, I think a lot of that is in business too. Like, are you gonna connect yourself with the Dan Marinos of the world? Nothing against old Dan, but I mean, if you don't win the big game,
right?
Who do you got? You got Joe Montana. You got Tom Brady.
Always a winner.
You got these guys, and they just win. They're just successful. There's just something about them.
Yeah.
Right? Leadership.
Absolutely.
Success. Was Dan Marino better than Joe Montana? I don't know. Some people will say Dan was better, but at the end of the day,
they're winners.
It comes down to, who do you tie your hat to, and so I think that, like, in business, this is so important. Who you surround yourself is so important. And what are you doing to level yourself up as a business owner? What connections are you making? What are you doing in your field? And before you even think about starting the business, the number one reason why businesses fail is financial hurdles.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Whether it's how much money you're coming into it with.
Right.
Your financial hurdles could be unexpected. Some of them you're anticipating, they just don't go your way, right? Lack of sales. Your sales
is a
didn't
killer.
ramp up. Sales
is
didn't
a
ramp
killer.
up the way you thought, right? Your expenses, you didn't calculate something.
Right.
Absolutely. A little attrition. You're not paying attention to maybe the details. You outspend.
Now those seem to be the little things that go wrong for somebody who's doing a pretty good job of running their business.
Mm-hmm.
But before we even get there, part of it is just the glaring mistakes that an owner makes financially. The really big ones, the things that you gotta just really never ever do. What would some of those be?
Billing,
not getting your billing out on time.
Yeah.
And that's one, even as a mature business, you can suffer from.
Yes, you can.
Right? Billing
Yeah,
is important.
no, absolutely. I think spending not paying attention, right? It's not paying attention to your money and not paying attention to your cash. I think I've heard you talk about that before, and just watching out for that. Spending too fast, coming up with this grand plan, and then you've got you're putting all the expenses out, but your revenue's not keeping pace with it.
Yep.
I think it's usually sales. Sales, though, that
sales is a killer. Sales is a killer. I was at an IFA International Franchise Association conference, and I heard a guest speaker say that only 11% of owners were salespeople in all of the franchises that they worked with. I would absolutely
agree with that.
So owners aren't the greatest salespeople. So one of the pieces of advice they gave to emerging brands was, get a salesperson in on the team right away. The other thing is that if the owner is a salesperson, they can't focus on running the business. They're focusing on managing the business. But I think, one of the biggest things that happens in, business before it even starts is just wasteful spending in the beginning.
Yep.
This is, I think, one of the number one things. And, Jim Collins even talks about this where, he goes into an office building and, maybe they went from class B to class A, or they went into class A that was so high with all of the waterfalls and, all of the additional perks and privileges to the office. And it's like, you're just throwing that money away.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it really comes down to, number one, office space. Being smart about your office space.
Yeah, and also just knowing who your customer truly is. It's I've seen office space mistakes by just individuals that have just some internal vision of what they picture their business,
Yep.
even though that doesn't really match the model. I've watched an individual that had actually a presidential title at his company, big corporation, and always drove by this one barn, and he thought it would be really cool. He thought, oh man, this will be so special if we could remodel this giant barn. And it was a working barn on a property, but it was way out in the middle of nowhere. It was nowhere near his operations. None of his operations were in the area, but he just transferred over. So he thought, I'm going to relocate my corporate office out into the middle of nowhere and in Maryland, outside of Maryland, and did all this renovation and everything. Spent millions of dollars renovating this property and buying and renovating it and everything, and relocating from outside of Memphis. And it was an absolute just financial just suck. Not only that, it was next to no metropolitan area really, and trying to commute in, like whether it was VIP customers or whether it was potential partners, vendors, investors, whatever. It was just a hassle getting there. It was a hassle getting out. Every time we had a meeting, the expense of trying to bring everybody into this location. And this is a president of a major corporation.
Major corporation. I know what corporation you're talking about.
Yeah.
So from big to small, you can see huge mistakes just within office space.
Yeah.
So if you're taking notes, you're taking tips. One of the things I think is really important is if you're just starting out and you really want that $1 million business, if you got that $1 million idea, look at the office space that you're in, look at where you're going, and it's okay to start from home. It's okay to get your feet under you. Yeah. It's okay to have a Regent's office space where they answer the phone, gives you an address, gets your mail, you can utilize a conference room. It's okay to start that way. You don't have to have something that you can't afford, because all you're doing is paying someone else's mortgage payment, right, or you're making someone else's profit. And so at the end of the day, looking out financially and making sure that you're not overspending on your rent, I believe is huge, because if you're in a seasonal business, well, when you're in season, the payment's no big deal. But when you get out of season, they can become huge. I also think that another one of the things that you want to do is become a part of some kind of mentorship group. I'm a part of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about that is there's actually on September 22nd, there's an EO-wide panel. And basically it's, they've brought in some amazing speakers and leaders, and they're talking about how are you planning for recession? And just being able to have access to that, just the forward thinking, just the learning that you can get out of that, just the best practices that you can pull from that, help you to prepare financially, because recession can have a big impact on your business. And so especially from the financial standpoint. But another one is hanging on to underperforming staff members. Right, because staff that doesn't perform can have a huge drain.
No, absolutely.
On your business.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think there's two types of. It's underperforming staff members, and it's those that might be high performers, but that are toxic. Right.
Toxic are the worst. Yeah.
Toxic are the worst, because you see, for example, on the toxic side, usually you see somebody that's got a giant ego. They think they're better than they are. Maybe they are high performers, a great salesperson, a very push forward type operations person, but they don't gel well with the team. They don't gel well with everybody else, and you end up losing staff. People don't want to work with somebody like that.
They do tons of damage.
They do tons, and when you look at the cost of replacing staff and the cost of not having an unstable team, can far outweigh. I don't care how great of a performer that salesperson is or that operations. You see it so many times where someone just looks at the number, oh, this is a great guy, everybody needs to be like this person. In reality, you're losing staff all throughout the organization because of that one person.
Culture.
And everything else. Yeah, your culture falls apart. And then underperformers are the same way. I see a lot of owners that are just, especially new owners, that are not used to having to terminate people. And it sounds like it's a tough thing to do. It's not easy to fire people, but it's part of an owner's job. It's part of a responsibility to keep your staff always leveled up. And that does mean making changes if somebody's not performing.
Yep.
And it's one thing if you're in a situation where it's a coaching moment and you can coach that person through it, but when you see perennial failure, I guess that's the way I would look at it, is you've got to make change. You got to make it quick too. Quick. And you're holding that person back too. That person should be doing something else, you know.
Exactly.
And it's important to try to make those changes and make them fast, because this is your business, right? There's your $1 million idea. This is your business, and you're letting somebody else hold you back from being successful. Which, if your business isn't successful, guess what happens? Your whole team's out of work.
Everything that you put out there. Mm-hmm. And you know, those toxic people or those underperforming people, everybody sees those people.
Yeah.
Right? And you can actually create more underperformers because they're like, well, why should I carry the load if this person doesn't have to? What's the special treatment?
That's right.
You know, so we want a bunch of grinders, right? We want people who are going to grind, work hard, you know, be part of the team, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And that's tough. That's tough in today's market where, you know, everybody wants this quality of life. That's all they want to talk about, right? At the end of the day. And hey, we want that too. But like at the end of the day, you know, there's a balance, right? There's a balance between success and not success. I always think about, you know, being in the corporate setting and, you know, it's so important that we have like Labor Day off. It's so important that we have Christmas off. It's so important that we have Thanksgiving, you know. And then you look at like retail or you look at the restaurant industry, mm-hmm. you know, and these guys are grinding.
Yeah.
From, you know, week before Thanksgiving to 2 weeks after Christmas, it's go time.
Yep.
You know, they're working massive shifts.
You know, business is business.
That's right.
And you're working there to try to grow your organization, but your staff also has to understand that their success at your company depends on the company's success.
That's right.
And I'll give you a great example is Costco is a great one. Costco obviously is a giant retailer, you know, and international, and their high season is the same as every other retail. It's through the holidays, through the Christmas season. And you know what? They're not anybody at the store knows that you're going to be working longer shifts. We're grinding, we're staffing up. We've got to handle all of this movement. Well, at Costco's world headquarters, they have a policy that says that if you work for Costco, we're all one team, which means nobody gets vacation. Not even at the corporate office. Like if you go into the corporate office, they're not the ones that are working on the counters or, you know, stocking the shelves or anything like that. But because Costco treats it as one team, they have a moratorium. You're not allowed to take vacation until after Christmas holidays over.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
I didn't know that. That's a good little tidbit right there, right? Especially for guys in the snow business.
Yeah, and so that's just what it is. You've got to. This is the company you chose to work for, and this is their high time. You got to be there, and it's all one team.
Wow, that's great stuff. That's a great nugget for everybody listening. So financial planning, want to be sound. Know what you're spending your money on. Those are just two examples. But if you really want to build that $1 million, business, employee management is so key. Payroll management is so key. Your biggest expense week in and week out is always going to be payroll. Next on that line is somewhere along that line is going to be your rent payment. So if you can look at those things, if you can shave a couple of dollars off, you're going to be in a really good position there. And then number 2 on our list is inadequate management. And this is a tough one in the beginning because in the beginning it's really hard to attract top-level people, right? Because top-level people, they don't always want to take the risk.
Right.
Right? They want to know you've been around for a little bit. They want to, know they're not throwing their life away, and they're gonna, be out of a job in 6 months. So I don't know. What have you seen with top level management? Where do you see that going wrong?
Well, with the owner is where top level management usually, and I don't mean the owner himself or herself necessarily, but what I'm saying is trying to save a dollar on top level management, not hiring the staff that's really going to get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
And saving a few dollars, I guess is the way I would look at it. Well, this guy will not really want to work here, or maybe this gal doesn't really want to work here. They're a high performer, but I don't think I'm really ready for them yet. This is where you have to be in sales. If you're an owner, you have to be able to communicate your vision for the company, and you have to sell those leaders that you want to be.
You got to articulate it.
You got to articulate it, and you've got to match that up and know who these people are and where they want to go, and make sure that you match that up to what their dreams are. Because you're right, top level managers are they want grand things too. They want
That's
to be.
Right.
They've got big picture ideas, and they know they can get there. And so you need to marry up your idea with their dreams and their desires professionally. And by having those two locked together, then great things can happen. On the flip side, you get someone that's less expensive. You don't spend as much on them. They're a lower tier. You're like, oh, they don't have as many qualifications. Maybe I can afford them. Oh, that's the worst. Also, somebody maybe that's too set in their ways.
Yeah.
Inadequate management. I've seen people that hire somebody that's done it one way their whole career. They've worked out maybe one other business their whole career. You bring that person on board, that they don't adapt very well.
Nope.
And you're trying to come up with new concepts and new idea, and you've got somebody that's on your own team that keeps trying to change your ideas to their way, just their own understanding. And that's a lower level manager right there.
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to hold.
That's
you
great
back.
advice. And I see the same thing. If you're winning $100,000 contracts, $1 million contracts, if you want to have $1 million business, you can't take $1 million business and put it into somebody's hands who doesn't have the skill, doesn't have the operational value, doesn't have the expertise to make that successful. If they have to learn how to make that successful, you're actually paying for them how to learn how to execute. When you do that, you will fail.
Right. Yeah,
and it will cost you the value of those contracts, which sometimes can be more than what you even pay that person in a year. So you want the best people, and you want to make sure you get the best price, but you also want to make sure that you don't sell yourself short on what you need to achieve where you're at.
Yeah, we were talking about sports a little bit earlier. Do you see people trading at the deadline for the guys that are not the stars? What's every team out there doing? They're trying to bring in a star.
We all want MJ.
That's right. Everybody wants LeBron James on their team, right?
That's right.
That's what every business owner should want. You should want a LeBron James on your team, someone that just skyrockets your business.
Someone who brings that equity.
That's right.
Right? You also want to put the right people in the right seats. Mm-hmm. Right? You want to make sure that it's the right people, because you can bring people in who are top talent, but if you don't put them in the right position, if you don't put them in the position to succeed, you're going to burn them out. You're going to lose them. You're going to waste their investment and your investment, because they're also investing in you. What does it say about them when they come to work for you? Right? How are they presenting that to friends, family, spouses? Are they going home and saying, wow, I just got this awesome job at TransBlue? Or are they saying, oh man, I got this job. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to go work for PureClean. It's okay. I think I'll move on in about, 90 days. I'm just looking for someone to fill the gap. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyway. So, at the end of the day, you want to be excited, right? What does it say about you when they come to work for your brand? So it's really important, if you're going to build that $1 million business, to attract the right people and make sure that you understand what you need to pay them. And one of the things that we did with our project managers was we kind of put a value out there: between this range and this range, this is what we could expect. Right. Between this range and this range, this is what we could expect. And we broke that down into 4 levels. And then when we see, somebody coming in and they have a job posting for a project manager, if it's too low, we can easily point out, hey, this is about what you're going to see. This is where that level is going to ride at. So, we can start to benchmark performance based on, industry average pay scale, right?
Yep, and you should know that. Whatever your business is, you should know what that industry average is.
You
If
should.
you're in a restaurant and you're trying to grow your restaurant, you should know what a top line chef is. And you probably will know those things, right? You'll already go into that. If you're a restaurateur or in the restaurant industry, you should know that. If you're in manufacturing, you know what it takes as far as somebody on logistics, or if it's somebody on the manufacturing side, or just sourcing, whatever that might be. And you know what those people are. So pay them what they're worth. Going in and lowballing someone too. I always see owners try to do that as well. They try to really, man, I got that person in for this. You know, all you did is you gave that person that person knows they're worth more. And then what they're doing, they're looking for another job.
They're just looking. That's right.
They're just taking your paychecks till they get another job. Yep.
Yeah, that's so true, man. And you know, when you're squabbling over $5,000 or $10,000, it's really not worth the $5,000 or $10,000. Just get them at what they want, take care of them.
That's right.
You know, make it everything that you need to be.
Yep.
The last two are kind of tied together. Number 3 is business planning, and number 4 is marketing mishaps. And so, you know, I think that as we're, you know, marketing mishaps, I believe, really happen from poor business planning. But when I look at business planning, you know, we use the EOS system, so there's a shout out to EOS. But it's nice because you build your business 90 days at a time, right? And that really allows us to strategically focus on, you know, what's happening, where are we at, where are we going, what are our goals, not only for this year, but 3 years, 10 years, so on and so forth, so that everybody can see the trajectory, everybody can see the plan. You know, business planning, I think, is huge. And I love EOS because you're looking at it 90 days at a time. So there's a little tip for you. You want to build $1 million business, hit up the EOS. I think it's absolutely phenomenal.
It is.
I don't know, what are your thoughts on business planning?
Well, business planning, especially, I had a friend of mine, she, years ago, all kinds of friends that own business, and she was out there and bought one of those sun tanning franchises. And she was all excited, and man, she opened up her store, and you know, there's people coming in tanning all the time. What she didn't plan on and what she didn't recognize was there's a season for that. And everybody's getting ready for the summer, and people tend to tan and stuff, but during the summer months, nobody's in there tanning. She was not financially prepared for that. It's a small business, but at the same time, it's a good point.
It can hit you hard.
It can hit you hard. And here's another thing is, you know, you've got seasons. You have to know your customer. And I see a lot of business owners, while they may know what their customer actually wants, it's actually knowing how the customer makes decisions. Say, for example, you do large projects for commercial, right? You're doing large commercial property, and you're doing, whatever your commercial projects might be. There is a CapEx budget time of year. How are you participating in your customers' decision making for next year? Are you already out there right now? Do you create, something like budget letters? Are you reaching out, letting them know all the different ways that you can help support them? Right now, there's thousands of property managers at the end of a year that have to create the 2023 budgets. And they are scrambling to get numbers together. They're not looking to do the work right now, but they are scrambling to understand how much it costs to do, say, roofing, do an extension on a building, add new loading docks, whatever that might be. And if that's your business, what are you doing to help your customer now so that they call back on you next spring when the budgets are approved and now that capital is available? And how are you budgeting? How are you marketing to those customers now?
So true.
And are you only thinking about marketing when you're running low on business? What did you do earlier?
Yeah.
Those are the things. That's business planning, business marketing.
That is business planning. And you know, the thing about business planning is it just doesn't happen at the beginning of the year.
No.
You know, you should be constantly thinking about your business, constantly thinking about the plan. And the plan that you start out with may not even be the plan that you end up with. You know, so really planning and thinking through, you might change your mind 3 or 4 times. Continue to plan, put it out there, but you know, a lot of times things don't go the way that you planned. I mean, in life, most things don't go the way that you planned. There's always some kind of error, or, you know, I've got to go to the airport on Friday, and, you know, the gal's like, hey, we're going to pick you up, and you're pre-TSA, so we're only going to pick you up 90 minutes before the plane. or whatever, and I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm going to be there 2 hours early no matter what. And they're like, no, no, but you don't need to, I got your time. I said, listen, something always goes wrong. The minute that I plan to be there 90 minutes early is the minute there's going to be a monster traffic jam and I'm going to be absolutely screwed and I'm going to miss the plane. And so, that's got its own set of challenges, right? But that's planning in everything we do. What are we planning and how are we monitoring that? And how are we making those decisions? And as people, advisors, mentors, whoever it is, come into your business, you got to know when to weed out the bad advice too. Just because someone has a good idea in your business doesn't mean that it's the right idea. And a lot of times people might share an idea, but they don't even understand holistically where you're going.
Right.
They might not understand the total direction of the business, and they might say, well, let's do this, and let's do that, and let's do this. And sometimes those things can take you down the wrong path.
Right.
So what we really want to focus on, if you really want that $1 million business, you got to really plan every single week. We have strategic planning meetings every single Thursday from 9 to 10:30. An hour and a half every single week goes into strategic planning and business planning. That way we can make course adjustments. We can make changes to the business. We can make hires. We can, make deletions if we have to. Hey, it happens. Mm-hmm. It's the truth. And, you look at every single sports team, right? We've been talking a lot about sports. What does every single sports team focus on? The trade deadline. Got to make some big moves before the playoffs. Got to change out a couple of people. We need a new pitcher. We need a new guard. We need a new defenseman. Whatever it might be, we're making big changes right there to our strategic plan because we know, one, we got to be financially in the right spot. So maybe we got to make a cap adjustment. 2, we got to make sure that we're managing our people and managing them the right way and moving the right people in and out so we can have the best, chance to be world champions, right? We want to be world champions at Evergreen Brands and Trans Blue, and that business planning comes down to who can we possibly trade? Who can we get here? What person can we level up with? And you look at these teams, these amazing teams, you look at Tom Brady, great player, but great players around him.
That's right.
Right? And look at the moves that, that management team did just in New England or in Tampa, but look at the moves they make to make sure that the right people are around those key players. And then as we bring this thing in for a landing, I think marketing is so key. And Dave said it. You don't just market your business when you're running low on sale. You got to be constantly marketing, constantly pushing. Yep. There's got to be a marketing plan in place. And you got to track it. You got to see the analytics on it. What's making sense and what's not.
There's so many tools that you can use that help you with that these days.
So many tools.
Yep.
And if it's not working, you need to understand why. You need to dive into the numbers.
That's right. Absolutely.
Are we not getting back to the customer quick enough? Is our pricing too high? Right. Is our pricing too low? Are we getting thrown out because we're the low bidder?
It happens.
It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, where are we, in this? Are we not following up? Are we not getting the bids out in time? Are we not as professional? Do we need new collateral?
That's right.
So, you're looking at those things. And to build $1 million business, these are the things you got to do right every single time, day in and day out. And we'll just kind of knock them back to you, but it's, financial hurdles. You got to make sure that your financials are in order. And, there we talked about making sure you're managing your staff, managing your people, managing the dollars you're spending.
Yep.
And then managing your rent on your building. Those are a couple of the main ones. And then, managing your people, right? Being a good business manager. You said it starts with the owner.
Yep, it really does.
Right?
The owner sets the culture.
That's right. Not, jumping over, a couple of pennies or something like that, so that you think you're going to catch something else. And, your business planning, knock it out, get it straight. Mm-hmm. And getting your marketing dialed in and in point. Anything else you want to add?
It's understanding that I think a lot of owners in their gut can feel one of these things is off or two of these things are off. I think they know it. And you said it at the very beginning is finding some network or a network that you can go to, some mentors that you can refer to, somebody that's also in your industry that you can go seek advice from, because when you have that feeling in your gut that something's wrong, but you can't really pinpoint exactly what it is on your marketing, or if it's on your financials, or if it's on your staff, go ask somebody. That's a great thing about franchising.
Yeah. That's why we love franchising.
Yeah, because you got mentors built into the system.
That's right. Yep. Check out our business, right? transbluefranchise.com. Check it out. See what it's all about. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to, build a business in a box than it is to learn all these lessons from scratch. Sometimes it's easier to start with a franchise. So check out the franchise. If you're interested, give us a ring. We'd love to chat with you about it. I'm Dave Wescott. Follow me on LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn at David Wescott. Look for me. The picture looks exactly the same, so you can't miss his beautiful face. Check out David Vetter on LinkedIn as well. He's got his picture there too. Easy to find, easy to connect with. If you want to talk about business, you want to talk about what's going on, send us a message. Let's hook up. Let's chat. But, and if you got some ideas out there and you're thinking, this is my $1 million business idea, we're happy to listen. We're happy to give it a go for you.
Yeah. Good luck,
Anyways, we'll
everybody.
be back next week.
That would be great.
Same time. We'll see you guys then.